hello, welcome back, or welcome, as this is a pretty new endeavor on my part. I'm Sarah, and over the past couple months, I've started making bookish content here on YouTube, so I thought it was high time to maybe go ahead and do the Booktube Newbie tag video and answer some questions about myself and what my intentions are and all the things. So let's dive into it, shall we? This is coffee, by the way. I feel like I should just get that out of the way. If I was filming this in the afternoon, it would be tea. I'm a usually black, 1 cup a day kind of gal. My husband makes it for us pretty much every morning, which still makes my heart flutter because he's really good at it. He does a little pour over situation, but that's what is in my mug. Question number 1, why did you start this channel? Purely, it was a creative impulse. I enjoy creating content, but creating content on social media over the years has just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel quite the same. It's not quite as fun. And in starting to really get into YouTube viewing and YouTube content consumption, I've always been a YouTube fan, but more so in like the recent year, it just felt like this was the place to be, at least for me. It felt like a new creative challenge to learn how to create longer form video content. I've produced podcasts and been a co-host. Actually, I am still a co-host on one podcast right now, so I'm no stranger to kind of editing or anything like that, but this is entirely new, and bookish content reading is a hobby of mine. I do it for fun. And I'm just that kind of person that not that I necessarily want to turn this into a job, but it just felt like a natural extension of my reading hobby, because the other thing I really love to do is tell my friends or people who are interested in the things that I am loving lately. I love connecting people with things that they are also going to love. What are some fun and unique things that I can bring to Booktube? I'm a mom. I'm a parent. I would like to think that I'm going to bring my effervescence, which sometimes pops up. The fact that I make myself laugh more than anybody else. My husband is a close second. He is very funny and he makes me laugh a lot. So we'll see how often I can make myself laugh just talking to myself, like to the camera. You know what I mean? And just my honesty. This is a hard question. I knew this question was coming and it made me nervous just knowing that it was coming. As for fun, I like to think I'm a fun person. In that I have fun doing this. So I don't know if that's unique, but I do hope that you will be able to feel the fun that I have talking about books and most likely other things that come up in my life that I love. So I hope to just be able to transfer some of my joy and my enjoyment of reading and of reinvigorating and just really establishing reading as a big part of my life. As for unique, I don't really know yet. I think I think it's too early to tell. I do hope to carve out kind of a niche for myself, more out of my opinions and the books that I tend to read than necessarily a specific niche of content. I'm a Gemini. You are never going to hold me to one niche of books. It's just not going to happen. It's just not. Next question is, what are you most excited about for this channel? Honestly, it's the possibility of connecting with other people who are getting just excited about reading or the books that I'm discovering as I am, or they're really excited about the books that they're reading, and then I'll have real life people that I can hopefully get to know a little bit, and then we can trade recommendations for books back and forth. And I've heard that time and time again that YouTube is really great for building community. And not that I am Not that I don't have intentions of trying to find some bookish community around where I live, but where I live isn't necessarily the biggest, most populous place. It's not small by any means either, but with the internet, you know, the possibilities for connecting with like-minded, like-hearted people, humans, is endless for the most part. And that is what really excites me. And also the chance to flex my creative muscles and dabble in video creation and video editing and all of those things. Just enjoy learning new technology and playing in this sort of arena. Number 4, why do I love reading? I mean, that should be a simple question. I really love how much I feel like it broadens and expands my experience, whether it's a fantasy story in a world that's made up and my brain has now expanded to include this fantasy world in the worlds that I, you know, can dream about. Or I read a nonfiction book and it expands my actual awareness of the world around me, or increases my compassion for my fellow humans. I just really enjoy the feeling of reading things that I haven't experienced before. And on the flip side, reading is also just such a comfort when you can go back and reread something that you truly love. And I'm really just at the point where I think books are superior. I don't watch a ton of TV, and when I do, it's usually reruns because, again, comfort factor. It actually takes a lot for me to mentally decide that I want to watch something new, but for whatever reason, like picking up a new book just feels so much more natural to me. Yeah. What book or series got me into reading? This answer is multifaceted because I've had different reading lives. Like, there was the Sarah who loved to read in high school, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. This is I feel like this is an obscure book because I don't know too many other people who read this in high school. But one of the books that I read in high school that really just opened the world of possibilities about books was a book called A Prayer for Owen Meany. And I apologize because I don't have the author's name right now, but I'll put a little picture of it up here. I loved that book, and I honestly think I need to do a reading vlog because I still own it, like from high school, where I go back and reread it, even though I'm very scared, because I don't want it to fall flat, but I think that would be an interesting experience. So that book kind of really opened my eyes to the possibilities of books. And then I will say another book that I read around that time was one of the Nancy Drew books, The Sign of the Twisted Candle. I still have it. I actually have all of my grandmother's Nancy Drew book collection, but for whatever reason, that's the only one I ever picked up. And I read it multiple times. So I would say Nancy Drew also kind of helped get me into reading. And then as an adult, it was A Discovery of Witches and the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. That was really the one where I don't know how or who recommended A Discovery of Witches to me, but I am forever grateful because it still is just one of my favorite books. And that was kind of the catalyst for me to start picking up other witchy magical realism books. And then from there I found Booktube and I found Book Talk, and then my husband had also found, I think, Bookstagram at the time, and he's like, I really want to get back into reading, and that just kind of opened the floodgates. What questions would I ask my favorite booktubers? Gosh, if I ever met some of them in real life, I would ask them if they would go on a bookstore date with me. Does that count? That's like really what I would want to do if I ever met them in real life. I would ask them if we could hang out a little longer and like, let's go book shopping together, and then ask them like, what would you recommend? That's really what I would ask. So if I ever meet some of you, like, if you want to go on a bookstore date or, you know, just a cafe reading date, that's what I would ask you. Let's see. I would also probably ask, like, I would want to know what advice they would have for cultivating the community that they have created, because I comment, I go in and participate, because I think that's part of cultivating community is you have to participate. So I'm trying to participate in the Booktube community. And I would just love to know kind of what their experience with that was. Outside of YouTube, is there anything else that you have used that you would recommend for, you know, making sure that you can have that kind of more or less two-way form of communication? I know, like, I'm the one that's going to be producing the videos and the content, but I want it to feel like anybody can comment, you can email me, message me. Like, I want to have discourse with people. So I would really just love advice on how to foster that. Where do I read? I read a lot in this chair that I'm sitting in right here. This, I don't even remember what was here before. Like, this chair wasn't always in this corner, and this shelf behind me was not always full of books. It used to kind of be like a built-in bar, and you can't see it because it's too high up, but there is a little nook up here that has, you know, some whiskey and a decanter. If you heard that, that was my dog. But we just don't drink that much anymore, so it made a lot more sense to let the books expand over this way. And yeah, I moved this chair that used to be on the other side of the room over here, and it's just become my little reading nook, and I really love it. Eventually I will find some sort of like chic recliner option, because that is the one thing that this is missing. But we live in a small house, so it's not possible to have an ottoman right in front of me all of the time. But yeah, at some point I will upgrade to a nice looking chair that's not like a lazy boy, because one, they're too big and I just can't because it's too grandpa. But some sort of chair that has an option where either the ottoman just like is snuck under the chair, or it is like a reclining situation. I also, where else do I read? I mean, this is where I mostly read. I will read at the kitchen table. I will read in bed at night, for better or worse. Sometimes it's a good thing and it will help me relax and get ready for sleep. Other times it keeps me up too late because I then get too engaged in what I'm reading. But you know what? I'm not on my phone, so I'm still calling it a win. And let's see. I am not someone who can read in a car. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of people who can read in cars. But I get motion sickness the instant I like concentrate on something for too hard that isn't the horizon in front of me. We are going to do a test though. And maybe you know, if you can relate to that, please let me know in the comments if you're a fellow, like, wish I could read in a vehicle sort of thing. Airplanes, that doesn't bother me so much, but vehicles that are on the ground, But for Christmas this past year, my husband got me a like motion sickness like bracelet sort of thing that it more or less is like shocking me in a not so painful way in like bursts. I don't know the technology or what it's called, but I'm gonna test it. At some point I will get brave enough to be like, okay, husband, just like drive me around a little bit. I'm gonna put this bracelet on and I'm gonna see if I can read a book in the car, and I'll let you know how it goes, because that would be a game changer. That would be a game changer. Though most of the time we can agree on like an audiobook or something to listen to together when we're doing like long car rides and stuff like that. For the most part, I'm reading in my home. I don't go out a lot. I'm sure some of the like I have been known to pull out a book when my kid's playing at the playground, because she's off like in her world with her friends. She doesn't need me. So it's like, okay, read 2 sentences, look up and look for the kiddo, read 2 more sentences, check on him again. But that's also really pleasant. Just like reading in the sunshine on a park bench on a pleasant day. You gotta love that. What kind of books do I like to read? I think I qualify as a mood reader. I definitely go through phases where other like different things sound interesting to me. I used to think a long time ago that I was just primarily like a historical fiction reader, but that is not the case. I'm trying to think of anything. I don't read a lot of horror. I think it's easier to just say the things that I don't read. I don't really like a lot of gore. or anything like too scary. I have read some Stephen King at my husband's recommendation, and so I'm kind of like, I also say that, and I also feel like I'm slowly building up my tolerance. I will say probably my favorite things to pick up are fantasy, any kind of fantasy, romantasy, you know, high fantasy, adult fantasy preferably. I try to read YA fantasy, but most of the time, I don't know, it just doesn't grip me enough. I usually find some gems in there, so I like never say never, but that's not usually what I gravitate towards. I love magical realism. I do still love historical fiction, though I didn't know that historical fantasy was a genre until this past year, so that's really high up on my list. And what else? Science fiction. I do love a good science fiction read, and I can often be convinced in my brain that I want to read nonfiction. And like I was talking about before, where it's like, well, when I do finally convince myself to pick up a nonfiction book, like I do feel smarter by the end of it. And so I do need to do that more often, especially because I keep buying nonfiction books, but then I forget to read them. So I need to do that. And I am slowly but surely getting into more like literary fiction, just like straight literary fiction. But sometimes that also takes just like a little bit extra motivation to get me there. Most of the time I like my stories to be make-believe. So that is it. I don't know how many questions I answer, but hopefully that gives you a little bit more information about me. And if there's anything that, you know, as we go along this journey together, you want to see from me, please let me know. Like I said, like I really want there to be discourse between me and you, my fellow reading lover. Yeah, so if you want to just like let me know a little bit about yourself in the comments, I would love to get to know you. Like I said, I'm a mom. I'm in my upper 30s. I live on the East Coast. What else? I work from home. But I do have like an actual job, and this is just meant to be a creative hobby, but it is one that I want to be consistent with and have fun with. So I hope that, you know, maybe after all this, you want to hit that subscribe button, maybe give this video a little thumbs up, and I will see you next time, and know that I'm rooting for you.